The time is at hand.
From the crackhead capital of the world in Williamson, West Virginia, you are in dark places. My name is Jimbo Fugit. Howdy. On Thursday, June 12th, my buddy Steve, an In Dark Places listener, took me and Brandon out on a little adventure. We went to Hellier, Kentucky. I don't even think we've ever talked about Hellier before on the show, but as a refresher, there's this place in Kentucky that's about an hour away from me that is called Hellier, and supposedly there are little alien beings living in the caves there. Greg and Dana Newkirk did a series on it on YouTube, so check that out. We went there and we kind of looked around. They have one store in the entire town. It's a little gas station / pizza place. We talked to one of the workers there. She said the story is fake, but I think that's typical words of a non-believer, right? They're going to say it's not real if they don't believe. On the way back, we went into Pikeville, Kentucky, and found Octavia Hatcher's grave. We talked about her on the show. She's the lady that was buried alive in Pikeville. She died in 1891, I guess of a broken heart. Right after her newborn baby died, she went into a depression and got sick and went into a coma. Remember that story? The doctors pronounced her dead and they buried her. Come to find out, there was this weird gas, like methane gas, coming into Pikeville coal mines and making a lot of people go into comas, and they would wake up a few days later. So her husband was thinking, I wonder if she woke up too. And when they dug her grave up, they found claw marks on the inside of the coffin from her trying to get out. Word has it that her ghost is seen wandering around in the graveyard there, looking for her newborn baby. Her husband put up a big statue of her looking over Pikeville, and supposedly on Halloween night, the statue will turn its back on Pikeville, the city that turned its back on her when they buried her alive. So we found her grave, and we can go back on Halloween now to see if that's true.
This is Mr. Haunted, your In Dark Places news correspondent, with breaking news. A babysitter in Kansas who was asked by a child to check for monsters under their bed was stunned to discover a man hiding there, police have said. The shocking incident occurred on March 24th at a property just outside the city of Great Bend, when the sitter was seeking to put the children she was looking after to bed. However, one of them was afraid. One child complained that there was a monster under their bed. When the victim attempted to show the child there was nothing under the bed, she came face to face with a male suspect who was hiding there. An altercation ensued with the babysitter and one child who was knocked over in the struggle. The suspect then fled the scene before deputies arrived. After police got to the property, the victim identified the suspect as Martin Villalobos, 27, who once lived there. The next morning, deputies spotted Villalobos and, after a short chase on foot, caught and arrested him. Little Mr. Monster Villalobos was charged with aggravated kidnapping, aggravated burglary, aggravated battery, child endangerment, felony obstruction of the law enforcement officer, and violation of a protection from abuse order. He's being held in lieu of a $500,000 bond. That's your In Dark Places news. Breaking news. Excuse my voice, I have a little cold. Thank you.
Jimmy Haunted. Thank you, sir. Men disguised as police attempt to steal spear-shaped UFO after new information is revealed, by Chris Malore. Thanks, Chris. UFO researchers in Mexico claim that a group disguised as police have tried to steal a mysterious orb scientists believe may prove the existence of aliens. Dr. Stephen Greer, an American ufologist and retired physician, revealed on X that fake policemen attempted to enter the vault in Mexico City where the suspected UFO is being kept, while scientists examine it. Known as the Buga Spear, the small metal orb was spotted in March over the town of Buga in Colombia, zigzagging through the sky in a way that defies the movement of conventional aircraft. The object was recovered shortly after it landed and has since been taken to Mexico to be analyzed by scientists who have discovered a maze of fiber optic wires inside that suggests it can send and receive signals. Controversial UFO researcher Jaime Maussan, who has had several claims about extraterrestrials debunked in recent years, hosted an international conference to discuss the latest findings on the Buga Spear on June 20th. U.S. Congressman Eric Burleson of Missouri and Dr. Greer were among a group of American officials in attendance when Maussan claimed that the imposters attempted to steal the Buga Spear. Greer added that scientists have already taken samples of the UFO that will be tested in a state-of-the-art lab to determine if the spear really is from another planet. Those scientists and their information has been provided to the top law enforcement. Any sort of attempts to interfere with this examination will be known, and the people and perpetrators will be held to account for it, Greer said in a June 21st post on X. Congressman Burleson added that it is his belief that governments and other groups may be working to suppress the public's knowledge of UFOs and alien life. It's not any government's right to protect knowledge about extraterrestrials, if it exists, Burleson said on Friday. We have too many people reporting and too many videos to ignore it. According to researchers at the conference, thanks researchers, this is the first UFO recovered by private citizens and solely controlled by non-government scientists. The attempted robbery came right after Maussan and other researchers revealed that they are trying to reactivate the sphere using an electrical charge, according to Randolfo Paredio, a Mexican engineer working with scientists from the National Autonomous University of Mexico. The sphere gave off a strong, decaying ionized field. The field was responsible for somehow dehydrating the field it landed in, killing all the grass and soil there. Got a story from my Uncle Tim. He was talking about my Uncle Rick. He's not been in good health lately, and he's in one of those assisted living apartment type things. Tim says that Rick has been seeing ghosts there at his apartment. He said there was a guy whose arm was cut off, standing at his bed, looking at him. He said when he saw him, the guy turned around and walked into his bathroom. Tim asked him if he got up and checked on the guy, and Rick said yes. He said when he went in there was nobody in there. He said he walked around in his apartment, and there was nobody around. So creepy stuff going on there at Rick's apartment. And thanks, Tim.
Even before we had the Haunted Chronicles, I helped Terry with the show Voices Carry, and he had a great guest on. It was Daniel Brinkley. And the last question I asked him was, I mentioned that I remember hearing him on the Art Bell show, and Art was a skeptic, but he called Daniel different in the real McCoy. And I asked if he could share an Art Bell memory with me. And this is what he said. I called Art and said, I'm coming to see you. You need a friend, and I'm coming to visit you. Art and I were sitting in his living room talking, and Ramona, Art's wife at the time, came in from getting the mail, and she motioned that she had a letter intended for Art. I intercepted the envelope and held it up and read the letter and told him what I said. In other words, he held it up to his, forehead or whatever. I then gave the letter to Art, and he opened it, and I was only wrong on about 3 or 4 words. Art's eyes got really big. He picked up his pack of cigarettes, and went outside. I asked Ramona, what happened? Ramona said, he doesn't even believe in this stuff. He's outside on the porch, and he's probably going to smoke that whole pack of cigarettes, wondering how you could know the contents of that letter. how you did it, what kind of trick it was. Remember, Art's show was all about art. He'd give you enough rope to hang yourself. Art never believed in any of the stuff he talked about. That's what made him so cool. I think I made a believer out of him, and I figured out that was my purpose for coming that day. And there you have it.
I'm kind of late putting this episode out. I don't really have any reason. It's just been kind of tough to find time, I guess. But a lot has happened since the last episode. Here to kind of help us digest it all. The living Nostradamus predicts Middle East ceasefire is not the end of hostilities and issues chilling World War III warnings to Brits, by Ellen Coughlin. Thanks, Ellen. A psychic has warned Donald Trump's Middle East ceasefire is not the end of hostilities and claims the UK will be dragged into the conflict. Ethos Salame, 38, of Brazil, is often referred to as the living Nostradamus because he accurately predicted dozens of events such as the Microsoft global outage and the coronavirus pandemic and the Queen's death. In May, he warned that we were just seconds away from a silent nuclear crisis, saying that the destruction of an Iranian nuclear reactor would have a global environmental and political impact. Now, Salame has issued a chilling warning about the current geopolitical scene after the United States President Donald Trump launched strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities on Saturday evening and announced the bilateral ceasefire on Monday. Salame revealed that this is not the end of hostilities, saying it's merely a theatrical interlude in a script written to manipulate headlines, delay investigations, and test how far misinformation can be sold as heroism. True peace does not come about suddenly, nor from a solitary speech during prime time. It requires real commitment, mature diplomacy, and, above all, respect for life. None of this was present in yesterday's announcement, according to the living Nostradamus. Contrary to what has been suggested, the psychic believes war is not over, and it has merely changed its guise. Salame added, drones continue to fly over sensitive regions, troops remain in position, and reconnaissance satellites have not changed their focus. And yeah, I'm with this guy. That's not the end of it.
Just hit reverse, dude. Right, I'm going. Boom. Man. Wow, I think there's a tornado right here. I can tell because it sounds just like a train. Look at that funnel thing there. Look, it sounds just like a train. The tornado sounds just like...
This is Mr. Haunted with this week's Cryptid Corner. These cryptids are called the butterfly children of Joplin. In 2011, a devastating EF5 tornado, I imagine that's a real strong one, ripped through the town of Joplin, Missouri, destroying thousands of homes and buildings. 158 people were killed and thousands more were injured. The butterfly children of Joplin referred to the accounts of children all who reported seeing similar small human-like beings with butterfly-like wings and were described as beautiful and peaceful, who appeared to offer protection and comfort during the storm. Many of the children talked about how they were shielded from debris and even directed to safety by beings with butterfly wings. These stories were initially shared to professionals in hospitals, Red Cross workers, and the kids' parents, and people soon realized that children from all different parts of Joplin all shared very similar accounts. Some interpret these stories as angels or spiritual beings offering comfort during this traumatic event. Holy mackerels.
Just hit reverse, dude. Right, I'm going. Boom. Man. Wow, I think there's a tornado right here. I can tell because it sounds just like a train. Look at that funnel thing there. Look, it sounds just like a train. The tornado sounds just like...
tornado decimated my small but old neighborhood. Nobody died, but many older homes were destroyed. My Victorian home was right on the edge of the tornado's path. We lost shingles and a deck, but were fortunate to have kept our house. I was sitting in the kitchen one morning a few days after the event. I heard heavy footsteps walk up my front porch steps. A knock and a masculine voice call out, "Hello?" I was staring right at the porch when this occurred. There was absolutely nobody there. I told a friend who dabbles in the paranormal what happened. She explained that it might have been a deceased former resident of one of the destroyed homes trying to get back home, feeling confused about the loss of their residence.
That reminded me of a personal tornado story that I have. In 1989, I was sitting in my living room with my sister's boyfriend, listening to the police scanner because it was fun. And there was a call that came in that said, on Putnam Avenue, some kid just witnessed his yellow bike being stolen. So that was about 5 minutes away. So I suggested we try to go be heroes and see if we could find that yellow bicycle. So back then I was working with my dad, and I had this big white van, which didn't have much stuff in it. It was very empty, and you'll understand why later. And so we got to we're driving down Putnam Avenue very slowly because we have our eyes peeled for this yellow bicycle. In a second, the sky turned black. I don't know what was happening. And then it sounded like gunshots. And I even said, "Hey, cover your head," because I was afraid the bullets were going to go through the windshield or go through the van. And it was that loud, especially because it was a white, echoey, empty van. And it came and went in like 30 seconds. It was just gone. The sky was clear again. We didn't have any warnings about tornadoes or anything. It was a big surprise. I didn't know it was a tornado till later. So anyway, my father had magnetic signs that we put on the trucks, and I had these magnetic signs on either side of my the passenger door, the driver door, saying the name of his company and the phone number and everything. So I noticed later that one of these magnetic signs were missing. When I went to work the next day, he goes, "Do you know how much those signs cost me?" He was mad at me like I was being irresponsible. I said, "What do you want me to do about it?" I don't know. I was in a big storm. So some nice Samaritan from East Haven, Connecticut, which is 3 towns over from mine, said they found the sign in a field. So that thing went up in the sky, came down 3 towns over, and I survived the tornado. Thank you.
Here's one of my favorite stories from Unsolved Mysteries and sightings and I guess just life in general. The apparently miraculous events at Fatima, Portugal in 1917 are well known, particularly for the Dance of the Sun that ended the last vision of the series of 6, and for the mystery surrounding the prophecies said to have been given by the Virgin Mary to the young witnesses. Lucia dos Santos, aged 9, Francisco Morta, aged 8, and his sister Jacinta, aged 6. They were looking after sheep just outside Fatima when they saw the apparition of a boy aged about 15 who exhorted them to pray. The angel, as they called him, appeared to them twice more that year, but it is the series of events that began on May 13th, 1917 that has made Fatima world famous. The 3 children were once again outside, tending to their family's flocks, when a flash of lightning in clear sky sent them scurrying for shelter. But no rain came. Instead, they saw an apparition of a beautiful young woman, aged about 18. Lucia talked to her while Jacinta looked on. The visions said she had come from heaven and that she would reappear on the 13th of every month for a period of 6 months. The children agreed that they would keep the story of the vision to themselves. But when they got home, Jacinta blurted it out. The news, predictably, spread like wildfire, and soon crowds gathered outside Fatima on the 13th of every month. The vision was seen, although only by the 3 children, every month from May to September, while the attendant crowds grew. On October 13th, some 70,000 people were present when the phenomenon that came to be known as the Dance of the Sun took place, although by no means all of them saw it. It has been described thus in a Catholic pamphlet. The rain stopped suddenly, and through a rift or hole in the clouds the sun was seen like a silvery disk. Then it seemed to rotate, pause, and rotated a second or third time, emitting rays of various colors. Then it seemed to approach the earth, radiating a red light and an intense heat. The crowd fell into a panic, thinking the world was ending, and then into tumultuous devotion. It is unfortunate that the only photographs said to have been taken at this event appear to be fakes. Certainly they are less than convincing. The figure itself was described as a young, beautiful lady who seemed to be less than 18 years old. She wore a white robe, and her head was covered by a white veil. Her hands, clasped in prayer, held a rosary. The matter of the prophecies is most intriguing. The first 2, supposedly given to the child Lucia in 1917, are the less convincing for being revealed after their alleged fulfillment in 1936 and 1941. But the third prophecy of Fatima remains one of the great mysteries. Said to have been given to Lucia on July 13, 1917, it was passed in secrecy to the Vatican, and is said to have been opened in secrecy by the Pope in either 1942 or 1960. Contrary to Lucia's apparent instructions, no official information has been given as to what it contains, but journalists and religious extremists have made a variety of guesses. Purportedly, it refers to appalling worldwide war in the latter half of the 20th century, to division within the church, to the rise of Satan, and to the only gradual victory of Christ. There is a rumor that in 1977 Christ himself appeared to an anonymous Catholic to state that the secret must be known by all now. And clearly there is a widespread feeling that the facts, if facts there be, are being willfully withheld. Father Malachi Martin was the Pope's right-hand man, and the Pope told Father Malachi Martin what the third secret was, and Malachi Martin told Art Bell. But Art Bell took the secret to his grave. Wonder what he told him.
Now you might be thinking, what kind of cryptid or monster was that? It was none of the above. It was a mule. And why did I play the sound effect of a mule? I'll tell you why. This is Mr. Haunted, your In Dark Places roving news correspondent with some breaking news out of Murray, Kentucky. A Kentucky man, known by locals as Cowboy Cody, was taken into custody after he allegedly released a raccoon into a crowded bar Friday. According to authorities, 40-year-old Jonathan Mason of Murray, Kentucky, was arrested after police say he released a raccoon in a bar, which resulted in one person being bitten. Officers with the Murray Police Department responded to the business at 9:18 p.m. after receiving a report of a disturbance. Officers found Mac Mason driving and initiated a traffic stop, but the suspect allegedly refused to roll his window down or exit the vehicle, which prompted officers to forcibly remove him. Authorities later learned that someone had been bitten by the raccoon and that Mason had been previously warned not to enter the property. Mason was taken to the Callaway County Jail and charged with the following, according to police: assault, criminal trespassing, resisting arrest, failure of owner to maintain required insurance. Mary Hafner, a bartender at the business involved in the incident, spoke to the New York Post, telling the publication that Mason had apparently trapped a raccoon earlier in the day on his farm and he had been carrying it around with him. "I'm a bartender, so I've seen some crazy stuff in my time, but nothing like this. He said to me, 'Oh, I see how it is. They say it's a pretty face out here to distract me.' It was more scared than anything," Hafner said regarding the animal. So anyway, this Mason guy lives on a farm, or as some people say, a farm, in the area, and has caused trouble at local bars in the past. She said Mason had already been drinking when he turned up at the bar that day and was banned due to a previous incident involving a mule. Hafner, the bartender girl, told the Post that Mason had always liked her, so she attempted to convince him to leave. Also, Hafner added, "I'm no city slicker. I'm a Kentucky girl. I had no problems catching him." When speaking to authorities, a local business owner said Mason had ridden the mule 15 miles into town to break him in, adding that in all the years she has known Mason, she has witnessed poor treatment and abused looks of his horses. The woman added, "The more Mason becomes intoxicated, the worse his treatment of horses become." Animal control determined that Mason's mule appeared to be around 100 pounds malnourished. Maybe Mr. Mason could take care of me for a little while. Now let me tell you something, In Dark Places listeners. I don't know if you all know, I had bad eye surgery last year. And remember that Twilight Zone episode when Burgess Meredith, there was a big, the end of the world or something, and he was trapped in the library, and he said, "Oh, good, I could just read the rest of my life." And then he broke his glasses. That's the way I feel, because I blew this story up and made it bold so I could read it. I'm still having problems. So, pardon my hesitations and pauses. Thank you. This is Mr. Haunted for In Dark Places News. Back to you, Junebug.
I was thinking, I'm right beside of Kentucky. I'm in West Virginia. And I looked up Murray, Kentucky. It's 6.5 hours away. Big old state there. And that's a great episode of Twilight Zone. But don't worry, you're doing great. The story is by Mir Soprart. Thanks, Mir. I didn't really believe in UFOs or aliens before until January 27th, 2024. Something woke me up in the night, and I felt immediately watched. My husband was asleep, but very deeply. I knew something was off. Then, when I looked to my right, there's what looked like a gray just looking at me very deeply. I felt horrified and confused and scared and in danger. And then the gray proceeded to approach me. Please imagine my terror. It was as short and slim as a 7-year-old child. The head was huge, and the eyes were the blackest thing in the room. Very big, almond-shaped, and they also looked empty or soulless. It looked almost as if I was looking at a thing, not a person or a being. It looked completely lifeless. This scared me the most. Anyway, I'm a Christian, of course. I didn't believe in UFOs before that, as I thought it contradicted my beliefs. It also sounded very unlikely from my rational point of view. But, yeah, it happened. There was one in my room, and my husband never woke up despite my intents to make him do so. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I closed my eyes very tight, prayed to God, and called in the name of Jesus, very quickly but firmly. And when I opened my eyes again, I was alone. The gray had left my room before he could even touch me. The next day I didn't tell anybody, not even my husband, of what I experienced. I don't know, I was so confused, and I didn't want to believe that it had actually happened myself. How could others believe me anyway? I thought. So I tried my best to continue with my day as planned. That day we had invited a few new friends to come over to my place, since my birthday is on January 31st. That's also why I remember the exact date of my encounter. So we were celebrating my birthday. A few friends of mine were outside the house when what looked like a UFO came right in front of our house and lit up the entire place very quickly with two flashes of greenish bluish very bright light, and then went away unbelievably fast. 4 people in total experienced that, all Christians and from the same church. One was my pastor. It was insane. That's really when I knew what had happened the night before was real, more than I would like. We are woefully out of time for the show this week. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. Thanks as always, Jimmy Haunted. Take care of your wild selves out there. We'll see you again next week. God bless.